Learn new skills or learn employable skills. Do both and achieve more. Become an apprentice, a genius decision. Eisiau dysgu sgiliau newydd? Neu ddysgu sgiliau cyflogadwy? Gwna'r ddau a chyflawni mwy. Bydd yn brentis, dewis doeth.
He's got to have a huge session here, hasn't he? He is just in third in the Drivers' Championship. He's got to maximise the qualifying session. He's got to get a jump on his rivals. Hopefully he can follow it through for him. We're looking behind now. We're looking for Unarmed and we're looking for Evans Joshua right now. They are currently in P5 and P7. I expect more from them from this session.
Yeah, and obviously everyone in the pits now, apart from Larry Wheels, who did just cross the line with a 1:30.8. Beef has unfortunately invalidated his lap time, but I believe he's just setting himself up for a lap. So let's jump on board with Beef as he is about to get himself underway for a flying lap of the Silverstone circuit. And we shall see as Beef flies through turn 1 of Abbey into Farm for turn 2, and now into Village turn 3. Opted for second gear, taking a bit too much curb there as we go into Entree now, turn number 4, and through the loop on the exit now down the Wellington Straight. DRS wide open as we run down into two iconic corners of Brooklands and Luffield, breaking it around the 50-metre brake marker board into Brooklands. Fourth gear there, taking quite a lot of curb, and he keeps it all valid. You do want to take a lot of curb on entry into Brooklands and through Luffield. Good traction on the exit now for the little kink of Woodcut as we come on to the Old National Pit Straight as we come down in towards Cops Corner. 7th gear, making sure you don't run too wide as you can pick up an invalidation there. Cam rules out of the session, by the way, as we pick up as we go into Maggots and into Beckett. And on the exit here, we'll go through Chapel as we come on to the Hanger Straight, where DRS is wide open once again. And running down into Stowe, braking as the curb starts just after the 50-metre board, as unfortunately Beef there runs just a little bit too wide on the exit. So that's going to be an invalidation as we come into Vale. And now through the final corner, the club section, as we come onto the Hamilton Straight, and is 132.9 there for Beef, but unfortunately invalidated.
Yeah, it was all looking pretty tidy up until Chapel. It seemed like the lap got away from him. Maybe he used too much of his tyres in those first two sectors. That invalidation, very unlucky at the end of the lap, but it just shows how precise you've got to be on a track like Silverstone. Any margin for error will be exploited by the track and you will lose your time, unfortunately there for Beef. But it's one of those things where you've just got to keep your concentration at every millisecond on a track like Silverstone.
Yeah, absolutely. As we have Evans Joshua out on a flying lap right now. I believe he's just coming through Brooklands and left field. And I believe not too far behind him is Ethan Ed. So we'll have two times coming in quick and fast from Ethan and Evans Joshua. So we'll come on board with Evans Joshua as he comes down to Cops corner, seventh gear, keeping it flat, keeping the minimum speed as high as possible, carrying as much speed as possible through Maggots and Beckers, but he just takes a little bit too much of the inside curb through Maggots, and that is an invalidation, and that's how easy it can be done.
It's so simple. You're pushing 100% through that section. You've got the car underneath you, it's glued to the road, and you're just trying to maximize the time. But just that little bit too much curb, that millimeter margin has cost him a lap, which potentially could have put him up on pole. So now we've got to look at Ethan Ed, I believe, is coming through on a lap behind him as well. Here we go, coming into the final corners now. Ethan Ed looking nice and tidy as he approaches the final two corners now. Let's see what he does. Yellow flag in sector 3 shouldn't affect him. Coming around the final corner now, he's going to put this up on... Oh, is that less? That's a slightly slower time.
Yeah, that is just over 200 of a second slower than his previous lap time. So no improvement there for Ethan Ed, as we got just over 2 minutes to go in a qualifying session. Now, one thing I also want to bring up with regards to this track, obviously the pit lane is so slow going through the pit lane. You lose a lot of time when making that pit stop. More time here than I believe any other track on the F1 calendar. How important is it going to be when we go into the race for these guys to time their pit stops to perfection?
It is going to be crucial because it's such a long lap as well. If somebody goes for an undercut on you, that's a lot of track that people have got to make up a lot of time on their outlap on those fresh tyres. I think it's about 40 second pit stop here overall, something like that. By the time you get back up to speed.
I believe it's around a 28 second pit stop altogether.
By the time you get up to speed, though, coming out of that first corner, but there you got the first couple of corners, your tyres are not going to be as warm as you want them to be. Ooh, Ethan Ed taking a little corner cut there on his way back to the pits, but that shouldn't affect him too much. But as you said, the importance of the pit stop here is crucial. You've got to be very careful, as we've seen this season so far. Some drivers have been picking up some speeding in the pit lane penalties. So you've got to be so precise, especially if you're up at the front of the pack. It's going to be crucial to time your pit stop absolutely perfectly, and you've got to make sure that you're not at risk from drivers around you. It's such a mental game on a track like this. Any driver who's pushing behind you, if they've got
wow. Colin R. Mason out of nowhere, finding that extra bit of time. He's on a 27.1. As I believe PW Jones, he needs to respond as well. He's just coming through the first sector. So I believe he's over a 10th up already. So PW Jones, if he can carry this through, he's going to be looking at getting his second pole position of the Welsh Esports League. Brought to you by Apprenticeship Wales.
He has got his head down right now. He is in the zone. Let's look at the commitment. Full commitment, drops down to 7th gear, 174 mile per hour at its slowest. That is phenomenal speed. Maggots and Beckett's coming up. Let's see how he does. Keeps it all nice and tidy. It's looking very good. Let's see the exit of Chapel here. He's got his foot to the floor. DRS is going to be wide open. What? That is a huge split margin, 2.5 tenths up, and that is going to slingshot him above Colin R. Mason again. Let's see how he does, holding it in through the final sector. Let's just hope he's got enough tyres. Perfect exit out of that section there. Approaching the final couple of corners now. Let's look at this delta. I've got a funny feeling it's going to go purple. Let's see it. We're approaching the
line. It's going to be a 27-0, 2.5 tenth improvement from PW Jones, and that is his second pole position. And it is a second pole position for the artist. Fantastic stuff from PW Jones.
Absolutely fantastic lap. Right at the death, the flag has dropped, and he has put his car onto provisional pole. What an effort from PW Jones, and crucially important if he wants to get his nose into this Drivers' Championship. He has put a car between himself and CN Armed as well.
Yeah, not only that, CN Armed, as you mentioned, in terms of the Drivers' Championship, has put 2 cars in between him and his closest rival, Evans Joshua. But both of the Robins, as Elder goes up in the P3. Where did that lap time come from?
Elder has smashed that lap. That is huge for him. That is a phenomenal effort. I genuinely thought PW Jones was going to be the last driver coming through. I did not see that Elder was on a lap. That is a phenomenal effort by him right at the death.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't lie, it's going to be an uphill battle now for Evans Joshua to try and get himself ahead of Unarmed, but we'll run you through the qualifying results when we load on to the final standings. Yeah, for Silverstone. And will we see any rain in the race? That's going to be the big question. But is P.W. Jones taking pole position over a 10th to Colin R. Mason in second place, who will join him on the front row, with Elder in third, Unarmed in fourth, Drofters in fifth, Ethan Ed in sixth, Evans Joshua in seventh, Spiffin in eighth, Hooky in ninth, and Cam Rules rounding out the top 10. And in 11th, we have Apollo, Manic Mechanic in 12th. 13th is going to be Beef, and Larry Wheels will be at the back for this race. So before we go into the race, we're going to have a quick word from our sponsors.
Learn new skills or learn employable skills. Do both and achieve more. Become an apprentice, a genius decision. Eisiau dysgu sgiliau newydd? Neu ddysgu sgiliau cyflogadwy? Gwna'r ddau a chyflawni mwy. Bydd yn brentis, dewis doeth.
Okay, after such a fantastic qualifying, very close times up and down the board. Obviously, P.W. Jones last week, he didn't have a very good time. He looked very quick in Portugal and Austria, but Austria especially, it didn't go his way. And obviously, before that, he had 4 podiums in a row. Is P.W. Jones going to take victory here tonight?
It's going to be crucial for him to nail this start. If he can get out in front and break that 1 second gap behind, he's got every chance of winning this race. But as we mentioned in qualifying, it's the time of the pit stop. It's going to be essential for him. He has the capability. We've seen it throughout the year. He has the capability to take this race win. All he's got to do is get his head down, drive his own race, and try not to worry too much about what the others are doing around him.
Yeah, drive his own race, but also keep it within the track limits, because we see time penalties galore when it comes to this track. You can extend on the exit of Cops, you can extend through Maggots and Beckett's, you can extend on Chapel as well as also you can extend through Stowe on the exit, and it's going to be crucial for these guys to keep themselves all together, as I believe we'll have the formation lap and we'll bring up the tyre compound that everyone has selected. And we shall see who is going to be coming out on top. But they are the standings. It is Unarmed who leads the way. Back on track now, and we shall see what tyres everyone is on.
There we go. It's P.W. Jones, Colin R. Mason, Elder and Unarmed, all starting on the softer compound red wall tyre. We have, I believe, everybody else down the field looked like they were on medium, apart from Manic Mechanic, who's looking to jump into the points with those soft tyres at the start. He's going to try and make sure that he has the jump on everybody else. Hopefully, Manic Mechanic for himself will be able to help in the team battle as well, because with a soft tyre, he can bring himself into play for some very good points here this afternoon.
Yeah, definitely, especially artists. And obviously, we've seen P.W. Jones do a fantastic work this season. Mark Mechanic got his first points of the championship last time out in Austria. Will we see him getting the points once again? And that is going to be the question. Obviously, the debutant tonight, subbing in for Mumford, plays in the Dragons. We got SRL Apollo, and he's another guy that obviously we don't know much about. We haven't seen him so far in this championship, but let's see what he can do. He's down in 11th as well.
He is the unknown variable that we have in this race. Can he climb the pack? We've seen him in qualifying. He has qualified 11th, but that doesn't mean that he cannot progress up this field. It's going to be very interesting to see how he develops throughout the race compared to people like Cam Rules and Hooky as well on the same compound of tyre, as we bring it around to the start-finish straight for the penultimate race of the Welsh Esports League F1 Championship.
Yeah, and will we see the team championship wrapped up at this race at the home of British Motorsport, as everyone takes their grid positions? It's going to be interesting to see as we await for those 5 red lights to get us underway for the penultimate round of the Welsh Esports League. The 5 red lights, they are out and we are underway. 13 laps of Silverstone await. PW Jones gets a fantastic start at the front, and it looks like Evans Joshua gets a fabulous start. And is that Larry? No, it's Spliffin's around at the back.
A disaster of a start for Spliffing, but what a start from Evans Joshua. He picked off his teammate Drofters and Ethan Ed in those first couple of corners. That is a great start. And look at him now, right behind Cian Armed, his arch rival for this championship. Let's just see how this continues.
Side by side on the run down into Brooklands and left field. He's going to hang it around the outside. Up ahead of him, we're seeing battles going on as well, as Evans Joshua's going to hang it around the outside of Unarmed. He's going to have the inside now. He's having a look at Elder as well. This is fantastic stuff, but Unarmed is still there on the outside of him as they come down into the old turn 1 Cops corner. Evans Joshua on the inside of Elder, and he's going to get that move done. Evans Joshua already up into P3. What a fantastic overtake so early on for Evans Joshua.
But Joshua has had his Weetabix before this race, let me tell you. Look at that jump in position for him, and hugely important for his aspirations to be the driver's champion. But that's 4 places on the first lap alone. He has started this race electric. Cian Armed losing the position there. That's a big compromise for him now. He's got to play this mentally. He's got to make sure. Is he going down the inside of Elder here? Cian Armed looking to follow Evans Joshua. Fantastic action.
This is brilliant stuff. They're still wheel to wheel. They're still side by side. This is fantastic stuff. They run down in towards turn 1. I think Unarmed will just about get before we head into Abbey.
That's a fantastic opening lap of racing from everyone here. I've only just noticed myself, I said it before the race, Evans Joshua made that start on the medium compound tyre, the supposedly weaker tyre at this point in the race. Evans Joshua has had a phenomenal start. He's going to see if he can now catch up to Colin R. Mason. He's got 7 tenths to do it, but DRS not activated until the start of the next lap, of course. So this is all about maintaining and staying within that 1 second of Colin R. Mason to get the benefit of DRS.
Yeah, and of course, there are 5 drivers in very close proximity of each other in the driver's standings. Obviously, the front 4 right now, PW Jones, Colin R. Mason, Evans Joshua, Unarmed, all in that drivers' championship fight. But also, Ethan Ed in 6th. He's just got to keep it clean. And Elder picking up a 3-second time penalty early on. How costly will that come later in the race? But looking at Evans Joshua, he's already broken DRS range to Unarmed.
He is on a charge right now, but it's fluctuating. You look at this, every single corner is fluctuating. Both drivers have their strong points on this track. Cian Armed staying now within that, but you've just seen it's gone from 9 tenths up to a second. It's going to be so close coming over the start finish. Right, Elder seems to be struggling here with his front end. It does not seem to want to stick to the corners, but we cross the start finish right now. Evans Joshua does have DRS, so does Cian Armed. So we're going to start seeing Cian Armed on those soft tyres close up on Evans Joshua on the mediums. This is going to get mightily exciting coming into these next couple of laps.
Yeah, as we see the fastest lap coming in from PW Jones there, but as it currently stands, Unarmed, he is floating around the edge of the DRS range on Evans Joshua, as Evans Joshua is floating around DRS range on Colin R. Mason as well, and I don't think he's got it. I think he's just outside that 1 second window.
The good thing about Evans Joshua right now, though, if he does lose that DRS, he does have his ERS to use. He does have his electrical reserve to use. So he's got battery power. He can extend that gap and hold off the DRS push of Cian Armed, who will probably be using both if he's within range. So Evans Joshua now, it's all about getting his head down, getting these laps in, making sure that he uses these medium tyres and stretches them out as long as he can.
Yeah, as that gap is fluctuating at around 1.1 to 1 second between Evans Joshua and Colin R. Mason. If Evans Joshua doesn't get within DRS, it could be a long night for him, because he's just going to drop further and further behind, especially down the Hanger Straight.
It is. It's a long straight, especially coming into this final section as well. You want to be as close as you can, obviously, to try and make an overtake. As who's that coming into the pits? Is that PW Jones coming into the pits for a very early pit stop here? Lap 3. He's lasted 3 laps on those tyres, so maybe PW Jones knows something about the medium compound tyre that we don't so far. But it's a very early pit stop to take for PW Jones, especially at the lead of the race.
Yeah, very early indeed for PW Jones to be coming into the pits, but To be fair, the mediums should be fine to get him to the end, and he'll want a lap or two just to warm him up, get himself going, and try and get himself up the order. But you can see, I believe he's going to be around 30 seconds now behind the race leader, Colin R. Mason.
He is, and now we're looking at the battle as well. Evans Joshua has lost that DRS, and you can see Unarmed closing in. You can see the gap just tumbling. It's down to 0.3 of a second. Just now we were talking about him floating on that 1 second gap that would bring him in towards the DRS range. Unarmed has closed up to within 5 tenths, 4 tenths. It's fluctuating constantly. It's going to be absolute imperative right now that Unarmed can maybe clear Evans Joshua before his pit stop, because Evans Joshua will be on that faster compound towards the end of the race, and that will leave C Unarmed a little bit more vulnerable on the medium tyre.
Yeah, and it's also about the pace that everyone will have on the mediums compared to the likes of Evans Joshua currently on the mediums. But here comes C Unarmed. He's going to cruise past Evans Joshua with DRS. As simple as you like, job done before we even get the Stowe. And that is a very fine overtake indeed. And C Unarmed straight into the pits. He's had enough of those soft tyres.
Those soft tyres do appear to be giving up as Elder has jumped in behind him as well. We're looking down the field. PW Jones, he's got 12 seconds now to somebody like Manic Mechanic. So he can really get his foot to the floor and use those tyres really well. Those new fresh tyres. He can start making sure that he gets a little bit of an undercut on Colin R. Mason. He's overextending his gap. Colin R. Mason was behind him, I forget that. So he's extending his gap. It's now imperative that he gets his head down. Of course, his tyres will be a little bit older towards the end of the race, which could leave him a little bit vulnerable. But PW Jones needs to get his head down and put his gap in as much as he can. As we're looking now, Beef and Spiffing having a little battle.
Oh, Spiffing on the outside.
That is a fantastic overtake. That is a fantastic overtake of Spiffing. But it's not over now. We were looking. He's got Larry Wheels in front of him. He's got DRS wide open, and so has Beef. Can Spiffing make up 2 positions? He's a little bit too far back there towards the end of the straight.
Oh, but Larry Wheels makes a mistake, and Spiffing's going to cruise on through and say, thank you very much, Larry. I'll take that position straight off you.
He will, and the Spiffing fan club in the chat is going wild. They've wanted to see him all race long. Now they've got him, and he makes up 2 positions right at the perfect time for his fan club to go wild.
Yeah, but the main thing for Spiffing now is he needs to get a good run out of Magus Beckett and Chapel, because he has Larry Wheels directly behind him, 2 tenths the gap, and he'll have DRS. So it should be very difficult for Spiffing to hold off Larry Wheels here.
We did see as well coming through Maggots Beckett. He did pick up a 3-second time penalty, but fortunately for him, drivers around him like Beef and Larry Wheels have also got time penalties so far in this race, so he's got to get his head down now as well. He knows he's racing directly on track with no penalty issues against these guys, so it's going to be a wonderful battle, and he's pulling away quite well in the final sector actually from Beef.
As we go on board with Drofters versus Ethan Ed. Now this is a battle that is going to be a little bit mouth-watering, because Ethan Ed has followed both of the Robbins drivers with the medium tyre to start with, and he has Drofters directly up his rear, and Evans Joshua just outside that DRS range in front of him.
He is in a Robin sandwich right now, but he's holding it together very well. He's not too far away from Evans Joshua. He might still be getting a little bit of that slipstream going down the straights, but Drofters right on his tails. We come through Cops Corner. Full commitment once again from all these drivers. It is fantastic to see. Drofters is really pushing for an overtake right here, and he is right up Ethan Ed's backside. Let's see as he comes out of the corner. He's going to have DRS. He's going to have his ERS as well. But Ethan Ed crucially got within that 1 second of Evans Joshua, but it doesn't make a difference. Drofters has just flown past Ethan Ed down the hangar straight.
Yeah, Drofters getting through up in the P2, but can Ethan Ed come back at him, as he did have a decent run out of Stowe, but unfortunately unable to really challenge into Vale. So Drofters will hold on to P2 for the time being, but what a fantastic straight line speed Drofters had to get that move done on Ethan Ed. Both of them had DRS, both of them had ERS, and Drofters with the straight line advantage.
It looked like Ethan Ed was in reverse at that point going down that straight. Drofters flew by him, but now we're going to see the cutback. You've got DRS coming out of this turn now as well, so Ethan Ed has got the opportunity to get this position back. So let's see as we come down now. We're coming down towards Village Loop and Aintree. Into Brooklyn as we go. And it's not close, but Unarmed with the fastest lap on those new tyres. He has played himself into play here. He's 1.2 seconds behind Colin R. Mason. That gap is a lot closer after the pit stops than I thought it would be.
Yep, the gap is a lot closer. Sion Arm looks like he's got those tyres hooked up very early on, but he does have he did go for the undercut, so his tyres would be relatively warmer compared to Colin's. And you can see it's around about a second between Colin and PW Jones as well. So this will only come back to help Colin R. Mason later on in the race once these tyres start to wear a bit.
It will indeed. He has that tyre advantage. He is going to be able to push just that little bit more towards the end of the Grand Prix, whereas people like PW Jones and Sion Armed are maybe going to have to, oh, we got the two Robins are in the pits back to back. Here we go, Evans, Joshua and Drofters. Let's see where they come out compared to those drivers who have switched to the mediums. Not forgetting these guys go on to the faster tyre now in the softer compound red wall tyre.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to lie. I think they'll come out around... possibly just behind Elder in 12th. So we shall wait to see as is the red wall soft tyres on Evans Joshua, and it'll be the same for Drofters as well. Let's see where everyone is as PW Jones coming through the pit straight. He'll easily get past both of the Robbins drivers. Will an Armed get past them? Yes, he will, and so will Elder. So both of the Robins have drivers now to overtake, and they need to get a move on.
They do. They're still relatively close to the battle, though. They've used those medium tyres very well. They haven't lost too much relative pace to the cars around them, which is quite surprisingly. The hardest part now is going to be the overtakes. How much life do they take out of their tyres trying to make these overtakes on the cars ahead of them? Evans Joshua has got a big task for right now, getting past Elder alone. But then he's got his championship rival in CNM. Not forgetting Drofters. Drofters was looking very handy towards the end of the stint on the mediums. He was closing in on his teammate very quickly. So let's just see how this plays out, because this is phenomenal action.
Well, now we're going to have a massive contrast by here, because we can see that Unarmed is just within DRS range of Colin R. Mason. So the advantage he'll have on the hangar straight will be able to pull Unarmed away from Elder and Evans Joshua, but those grips on the soft tyres will help Evans Joshua and Drofters close in around the rest of the track. So now we're going to see the contrast between having DRS versus having fresh, softer tyres.
We just, as you were saying there, with CN Armed being in that DRS range, he has dropped Elder on the hangar straight by 0.5 of a second. So that's an excellent extra buffer that he has now got. If Evans Joshua does manage to get past Elder, it's going to be a big ask to close up by nearly 3 seconds now, as well as get the overtake on Elder. So let's just see how Evans Joshua approaches the overtakes.
Oh, this could be tasty, as Hookie's going to defend from PW Jones, and that could be enough to let Colin come back at him, as it looks like Colin is now back within a second of PW Jones. That battle with Hookie, not what PW Jones would want, but it has happened, and now Colin is there. And Hookie's having a go at him again.
And Evans Joshua as well down the inside, making the overtake on Elder. A lovely move, making sure that he keeps it nice and clean. So now he can get down to chasing Unarmed. 2.7 seconds, the gap now. Let's just see how quickly this closes. But see Unarmed, as you said, still in that DRS range. Look at the train up the front though. PW Jones, Colin R. Mason, Hookie and C Unarmed all within a second of each other, or within 3 seconds of each other on track itself. This is phenomenally close racing. As we look now, Hookie coming out of Chapel down the back straight. He's got
Siam almost losing the car. He carried so much speed compared to Hookie through Magus and Beckett's, and he almost got caught out snapping the wheel of his car. And look at the time he's lost to Evans Joshua because of it.
That's 1.5 seconds that he's just lost. Any gap that he had built up to defend from from Evans Joshua, now has completely evaporated as we see Hookie dive into the pits to make his mandatory pit stop. This is extremely close. PW Jones leading the way now as a net leader. He's just overtaken Ethan Ed, who has pitted as well. Colin R. Mason 0.6 of a second behind. But now, seeing Armed, that 2.2 second gap, he's lost the initiative. He's out of DRS range, and he is so vulnerable to Evans Joshua on those soft tyres.
Yep, vulnerable is the word. And now can Evans Joshua put CN Armed under pressure? Because this is not only for a podium here, but this is also for the driver championship lead.
It is, it's, as we mentioned earlier, a point separating these two after 6 races. So any overtake, any incident here could prove costly for either one in the championship.
Was Colin up ahead? He smashed to get through on PW Jones.
What a fantastic move. Was that through Cops?
I believe that was on the old National Pit Straight before Cops, but Colin R. Mason up into the race lead, but I think he's made that overtake just a little bit too soon because PW Jones will have DRS to come back at him.
As we're looking out, Drofter's right on the tail of Elder as well. Let's not forget that these two are not out of this race. Drofter's on the end, the last stint.
Comes
As he
Evans.
goes down the inside. That's Drofter's making his way through, and is his teammate through on C unarmed as well? The Robin's making a double overtake down the hanger straight. Fantastic work by both drivers there. And now we approach the final sector, and Evans Joshua has made that stick. And look at Drofter's closing up. He's got phenomenal pace around Silverstone.
Yeah, and now this is where this could get interesting because Drofter's on those soft tyres. If he's got the pace to catch Unarmed and get past him, Drofter's can play the team game. He can give Evans Joshua that car in between him and Unarmed and be able to just eke out a bit more in terms of the Drivers' Championship going into Brazil.
He can indeed. He can be that buffer zone that Evans Joshua might need. Obviously, he's 1 point behind in the championship. Evans Joshua is going to push for every point he can get. And if C Unarmed does start to drop points, then that is hugely important for Evans Joshua. So Drofters, as you said, can be the perfect teammate here and play spoiler for C Unarmed's title hopes.
Yeah, and I believe currently, as it stands, if it stays like this, I believe the Robins will take the team championship here as well.
That would be phenomenal. In the first race of the day, we knew there were variables coming into the final race, which could mean they would win this, win the team championship here. But the drive from these two so far this race has been absolutely phenomenal. We've got 2 laps left as Ethan Ed picks up a 3-second time penalty, but it would be a fantastic achievement for the Robins to pick up the team championship with 1 race to spare.
Yeah, as it doesn't look like anyone was close enough to a move, but Drofters, look how close he's getting to the back of Unarmed now. Unarmed getting close to the back of Evans Joshua as well. It's all bunching up. Obviously, you got PW Jones getting close to the back of Colin R. Mason as we begin lap number 12 of 13. It is Colin R. Mason for the Pirates leading the way ahead of PW Jones. Evans Joshua in second place, Unarmed in Evans Joshua in third place, Unarmed in fourth, with Drofters right on the back of Unarmed in 5th place.
This is going to get mighty tasty as we head down into Brooklands. 3 drivers separated by 0.8 of a second. This is going to be a phenomenal battle. The only problem is for Drofter, but Drofters is closing in. Is he going to take a dive down the inside into Brooklands? He has a look, but he's not quite close enough. But you just see how beneficial the DRS is. C Unarmed and Drofters both closing up onto the back of Evans Joshua. It is hugely beneficial to have that slipstream, but if you can't make the pass, it is mightily frustrating knowing you have that speed advantage.
Yeah, as we have a little bit more as Evans Joshua there runs very wide indeed on the exit of Cops. Possibly a little bit of wear starting to creep into those soft tyres now. So can Unarmed come back at him here with DRS?
He did take a little bit of a scenic route there out of Cops, we have to say. But C Unarmed closing in 0.2 of a second. He's gone down the inside. This is huge for the championship. Both drivers wheel to wheel. This is fantastic. Evans Joshua's still got his nose in front. That's a wonderfully defensively done there. That's wonderfully done to keep C Unarmed behind him.
Yeah, with C Unarmed's big opportunity to get the move done there, but he will have 2 more opportunities. One down in towards Brooklands, and once again down in towards Stowe. Question is, will he be under pressure from Drofters behind, and will he be close enough to make a move on Evans Joshua?
Undoubtedly, he would be under pressure from Drofters behind, but it's all about composure now for C Unarmed. Is he satisfied going into the final race that he can beat Evans Joshua in that final race? Does he settle for this position right now? He's going to look down the inside of Brooklands again, but I don't think he's close enough. He's not. This is all about keeping within that 1 second gap now, keeping as close as he can to make sure that he has that one last opportunity down the hanger straight. He's got to keep it nice and clean. Also, at the same time, keeping in his mind that Drofters is ready to snap up any mistake. So C Unarmed's under a lot of pressure right now.
Yep, C Unarmed needs a good run through Maggots, Beckett and Chapel as Drofters. There we go. That will relieve the pressure. 3 second time penalty for Drofters in behind.
It will indeed. We're coming through now. Maggot's Beckett's Manic Mechanic also picking up a 3-second time penalty. Let's see how close it is off that. 0.3 of a second. This is very doable for Unarmed. He's got to get his foot to the floor. How much ERS does Evans Joshua have to defend?
Not close enough, I don't think.
No, he's
Evans
not.
Joshua.
Evans Joshua defending very well. He must have had some ERS power left right at the very end. But we're looking through. Colin R. Mason about to take the race win.
A big win for Colin R. Mason. PW Jones back on the podium once again. Evans Joshua taking the championship lead. And I believe with that, the Robins have taken the team championship.
Fantastic effort from all the drivers. Congratulations to the Robins. If it is true, we will try and crunch some numbers for you very quickly. But the Robins putting in a stellar performance. Evans Joshua specifically coming from 7th on the grid up to 3rd. That opening lap was huge for him. But if it is true when we crunch the numbers and the Robins have won it, that would be a great thing for them to relieve a little bit of pressure, of course, for somebody like Drofters. It's not over for Evans Joshua. The pressure is still fully on him going into this final race. But another phenomenal race in the Welsh Esports League. What a race.
Also, there is the fastest lap point, which I believe Drofter still has. So I'm doing a quick little maths a second. I believe that is 26 points that the Robins gain. Also 26 points that, actually not 27 points that the Pirates gain. And everyone else wasn't able to gain enough points to overhaul the Robins. So I believe with that, it is the Robins to take the team championship.
You've got to applaud them for their consistency through all the races that we've had. It's not easy to wrap up a title before the last race of the season even happens. So that is a testament to both them as individual drivers and a team as to how well they've done over the course of the 7 races so far, with 1 left to go.
Yeah, 1 more race to go as Colin R. Mason got the in-game driver of the day, and well deserved actually as well. He done such a fantastic job throughout the entire race. Him and PW Jones gave us a fantastic scrap for the lead, but that battle towards the end with Unarmed, Evans Joshua, Drofters, that was some intense stuff, and it marinates beautifully now going into the final race.
It does indeed. We have a fantastic final track as well at Sao Paulo. So these 2 drivers, we've seen many a champion crowned at Sao Paulo. See Unarmed, Evans Joshua, this is your time. This is your time to stake your claim as the best driver in this league. So let's see which one of them has the intestinal fortitude to snatch the win.
Well, it is Colin R. Mason that takes victory ahead of PW Jones, Evans Joshua in 3rd, with Unarmed in 4th, Drofters in 5th for that fastest lap, Elder in 6th, Cam Rules in 7th, Ethan Ed in 8th, Hooky in 9th, Manic Mechanic the final point playing position. So he has got another point again, Manic Mechanic on a roll. And then we got outside the points, we have Beef, Larry Wheels, Spliffin and SRL Apollo. And what a fantastic end to the race it has been, and I believe we'll be taking a short intermission before we get ready for the final race of the Welsh Esports League, brought to you by Apprenticeships Wales. But before we go to this intermission, here is a word from our sponsors.
Learn new skills or learn employable skills. Do both and achieve more. Become an apprentice, a genius decision. Eisiau dysgu sgiliau newydd? Neu ddysgu sgiliau cyflogadwy? Gwna'r ddau a chyflawni mwy. Bydd yn Brentys, dewis doeth. Learn new skills or learn employable skills. Do both and achieve more. Become an apprentice. A genius decision. Eisiau dysgu sgiliau newydd? Neu ddysgu sgiliau cyflogadwy? Gwna'r ddau a chyflawni mwy. Bydd yn brentis. Dewis doeth.
Okay, what a fantastic race we have just seen at Silverstone. It was Colin R. Mason that did take the victory. And obviously the big news out of that was that the Robins take away the team championship. They lead the way. No one can catch them now. And this is all about the Drivers' Championship in this race for the Robins drivers, as there is only 9 points separating the top 4 drivers going into this final race.
9 points is an incredibly close margin over 7 whole races. We got Evans, Joshua, CNR, PW Jones and Colin R. Mason all in the shout for the drivers' title. Also, as well, massive congratulations to the Robins. Well done on sealing your first team championship.
Yep, massive congratulations to the Robins. I mean, both of their drivers have been absolutely fantastic throughout this entire championship. They have been the cream of the crop in terms of both being up there on the pace. It's not always gone according to plan, but when it has, they've been unstoppable. 2 1-2s in this championship so far.
We talk about it all day. Consistency throughout a championship, this is wholly important. It doesn't matter if you win a race and then you finish last, you've got to remain consistent. And these two drivers, Drofters and Evans Joshua, have been fantastic for the Robins, and they have wholly deserved their team title win.
Yep, that they have indeed. But of course, now, in terms of the team championships, obviously first is out of the question, but second down to 5th. 19 points separating those 4 teams. The Dragons, the Pirates, the Artists, the Pit Ponies, all within a shout against second in this championship. And of course, we got the 4-way scrap, 9 points separating the top 4 drivers in the driver's standings. It's still all to play for as we go into Brazil.
It is entirely all to play for. You are not going to see action closer than this anywhere else. It just proves how every driver belongs on this grid, how consistent they've been. Every single driver has been phenomenal all year. The team championship is sewn up 2nd to 5th, as you said, still all to play for. And we've got the drivers championship. You're not going to get any more exciting action than this, guys. You might as well just scrap everything else off. The Welsh Esports League is the place to be, and you're not going to be disappointed with this final race. I can tell you that much.
Absolutely not, and it is a fantastic track that we are going to as well. The Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, formerly known as Interlagos. We've seen many champions crowned at this track in real life F1, and in terms of the virtual world as well, we've seen many champions crowned here as well, as it is a fan favourite in terms of the competitive racing scene. And this 4.3 kilometre circuit first appeared in 1973 and has been an iconic track since day one. Ayrton Senna, an absolute legend. He's got the first 2 corners named after him, the Senna S's, and it's going to be crucial for these guys to not extend through those 2 corners.
It is indeed. As we look, that picture that we just saw there, the previous one, just shows the difficulty of those first 2 corners. Not only are you going in downhill, which is an absolute nightmare for braking, you've got to look at the camber, the oscillation of those 2 turns. It's going to be very difficult to be able to keep these cars in the exact line that you need to be, with the track pulling away from you and then pulling back again. You're going to have to nail those first 2 corners every single time, or you're compromised going down that back straight. And as you said, the legendary Ayrton Senna has those 2 corners rightfully named after him. A Brazilian legend, an F1 legend. I mean, we can't ask for a better finish to the title race than that Sao Paulo.
Yeah, and obviously, like in terms of like F1 moments, we've seen iconic ones here. From the infamous 2008 Is That Glock, when Lewis Hamilton won his first World Championship, to Michael Schumacher again overtaken in 2010 by Sebastian Vettel to start the Vettel Red Bull era. It has been an absolute iconic circuit, and the racing here has always been top quality.
It has indeed so many memories for real F1. Let's create some memories for the Welsh Esports League. This is going to be a fantastic race. Let's just hope that it can live up to real F1. I know it will. These drivers are going to be giving everything. This is going to be a fantastic race around such an iconic circuit. Let's jump into the action as we watch Spiffing on his opening gambit, going out on his warm-up lap.
Yep, Spiffing gonna be the one to get us underway. The last braking zone here as we enter turn 12. Obviously 15 corners around this track, but it's all full throttle as you climb up the hill. The elevation changes really going to be incredibly difficult for these cars on traction, but DRS is wide open and Spiffing is going to get us underway for a lap. Breaking down just after the 50-meter brake marker board into turn number 1 and 2. The center S is keeping it all valid as we swoop through turn 3. On to the straight with DRS wide open, we should see plenty of overtaking opportunities down in towards turn number 4. Braking just after the 100-meter board, 4th gear, getting the turn in perfectly as you climb up the hill in towards the double right-hander of turn 6 and 7, where you can also run very wide there. Now braking hard as the camber of the corner goes down and then up, then down again as you climb and drop through turns 8, 9, 10. And now this left-hander, turn 11, we've seen the back end of many cars go there in terms of just not having the grip as we break for the final braking zone of turn 12 and through the kink of turn 13 and through the left-hander of turn 14. DRS wide open and now through the kink of turn 15 to the line, keeping as close to the pit wall as possible, is a 108.7 from Spliffing to get us underway here in qualifying.
Fantastic on board of the track. You see the oscillation up, down, left, right. The track is always challenging you in every way possible. Spliffing with a very good opening lap there. Fully committed to the track. Very clean, very tidy. Not pushing those little areas where you can get your time invalidated. Ethan Ed coming through into the 107s already. What a lap from Ethan Ed there.
Ethan Ed is saying, I am here. I can play spoiler in this. I may be a very big outsider in terms of all this, but I can play spoiler, and he is putting it on pole position currently.
He is indeed, as we're looking at Elder now coming through the final couple of corners. He's opening his DRS right now, slamming it open, closest line, straight across, and that is a 108.492 to leave him in 4th overall. Drofters as well popping up into 3rd with a 108.2.89. It's going to be close. We're looking at Cian Armed with a very good lap there as well. He popped in with a 108, almost dead. So very good opening laps from these drivers. Evans Joshua got a lot of work to do though. If we look at the standings, he's 0.8 of a second down on Ethan Ed's current time, and crucially, he is so far, that's 4 cars between himself and Cian Arms. So he's got a lot of work to do coming into these 2nd and 3rd runs.
Yeah, and a man who's out on track is the man currently in 4th. It is PW Jones. I believe he's about to get himself underway for a lap. So we shall see what PW Jones can do. And obviously, I took us through a lap of Spliffing, so I'm going to allow you to take us through a lap with PW Jones.
PW Jones and DRS wide open as we come down to the Senna S's turn 1 and 2. Nice tight early braking point, not overextending too far as he heads through the Curva do Sol onto the next straight, the DRS section. Flat out, taking a very interesting line, negating the fact that he has to go wide, picking up the speed, and that's 1.3 seconds up in the first sector on his own personal best. Of course, he's been on a lap, I believe, but here we go now up the hill towards Lantagina. I'm going to try and do these pronunciations for you, everyone. I'm sorry, it's going to be terrible, but we're going to do it. Comes down now with 33s coming through these corners now. He's looking very clean on this lap as we approach Pinenello, and then the Bico de Pato coming into the end of the 2nd sector. Nice and tight through this corner. Do not push your car too far wide so you invalidate your lap. Oh, a little bit of a step out there from the back, but he keeps it together rather nicely. Coming down into the final, really important braking zone of the lap. Turns it in a little bit wide on exit, but he's going to get the power down now as he heads straight up the hill. Full throttle, full commitment. DRS about to be slammed wide open. It's coming down out to the final corner. Aquibanos. Let's see what he does. It's going to be a 108.084. That puts him in 2nd place. That's a very good lap indeed from him.
Yeah, and that is the whole reason why I allow you take the lap on it, because you know all the corner names. Yes, I unfortunately do not know all the caller names here, but I do know the numbers. And Colin R. Mason, a man that hasn't got a lap on the board yet, but is a 51.2 in the middle sector as he climbs up the hill now to set his first flying lap of the session. Honestly, I was going to say predictions for a pull time to be around the 7.6s, but these guys on their bankers are literally almost there as Colin R. Mason goes on provisional pole with a 7.8.
They hit a 7.8 as a banker lap. That is throwing down a gauntlet to every other driver in this field right now. That is a phenomenally quick lap just to get one safe. We don't know what Colin R. Mason can do more to improve his time, but that is a fantastic effort from him. If we're looking at a 107.6, then we've still got a lot of action to come from these drivers, especially people like PW Jones, Cian Armed, and we're going to be looking at people like Evans Joshua as well to improve. So, like you said, a 107.8 as a banker lap, that is phenomenally quick.
Yeah, and I can't lie. Obviously, seeing these times come in, it is making me feel bad about my own time trial lap around here because I've only done a 7.9 and time trial is meant to be quicker. So I am much slower than these guys around here currently, and it is very impressive from all the drivers out here right now.
You've done a 107.9. That is hugely impressive because I've only done a 108.4. So I take my hat off to you. You have done phenomenally well. I am a bit of a scrub when it comes to this game, unfortunately. But Larry Wheels is winding up for his first attempt at getting a lap on the board as we come down now towards the centre S's to start the lap.
Yep, Larry Wheels coming into the centre S's as to the line. That is one of the Robins. It's Evans Joshua. It is, but a big improvement. He gets himself up into P5 in the background there. Evans Joshua, that's more like it from him. He's getting closer to these guys up ahead of him.
He is, and every lap that he has, he will gain more confidence, but everybody else will as well. So he's got to make sure that he is fully committed in every single corner. Larry Wheels now coming into the second sector. He's looking very nice and tidy, a little bit wide on entry there, but he's recovered it nice onto the second apex. And he is now sliding through this wonderful section of track. You've got to be so concentrated on this section because it's so easy, as we saw PW Jones do. Step out the car just that little bit too much, pushing for a little bit too much torque through those tyres. It's now about how much grip you've got left in those rear tyres for the traction as you launch up this hill. He's on a 52.6, not phenomenally quick, but he's doing a very nice job of keeping it nice and clean. We pull up now towards the final couple of corners. He's going to slam his DRS open, as you can see at the bottom of the screen there. Right now, absolute pedal to the metal. He's taking a wider line, but let's see what he does. 109.532, and that's good enough for 11th place. So a good effort there from Larry Wheels.
Yeah, fantastic effort for Larry Wheels right there. I mean, he's not too far off the top 10. He can definitely get himself in and amongst it. As looked like Cam Rules was coming to the end of his lap, and I can't lie, he was quite a considerable amount up on the set of the medium compound tyres, but he did invalidate his lap as we got Drofters now through the final sector. He is a 10th down on his lap time right now, so this is not looking like it's going to be an improvement for Drofters as an Armed improves slightly, gets himself ahead of PW Jones as Drofters is into the pit lane.
Yeah, he's abandoned that lap, and rightfully so. He was, as you said, he was a 10th down, so it wasn't worth risking those tyres for the end of the lap just to push. In case he made a mistake, he could have put it in the wall and not had a final run. But I can see the chat now is very exciting because Spliffing is on the screen. He is on a warm-up lap, I believe. He is getting ready to go for his next attempt. Currently sitting P8 on a 108.760. He can still make up a lot of ground here. Evans Joshua only 4/10 or 5/10 ahead of him here. So if Spliffing can put a lap together, he can really throw the cat amongst the pigeons going into the race.
Yeah, that he can, and Spliffing, this is going to be hugely important for him because obviously the pit ponies are still in that championship fight amongst the artists, amongst the pirates, amongst the dragons, and they do have a nice little gap behind the puffins of a 24-point gap as it currently stands. So I believe pit pony should be safe from the puffins unless Elder and Karen Rules do an absolute madness here and get a double podium, but it's going to be interesting. Can the pit ponies overrule the artists and the pirates?
It's going to be a Herculean task. But look at Spliffing right now, 10th up on his personal best time. He's doing very well. But it's going to, as you said, it's going to take a remarkable job to overhaul that points difference. It's not impossible. We know that anything in F1 can happen. It's not impossible. Nice improvement there. 0.190 of a second improvement for Spliffing. Just re-establishing that grip he's got on 8th place right now. But every team now is going to be looking at this grid and thinking, where can I pick up positions? Where can I pick up time? Because the team championship, as you said, from 2nd to 5th, so close. Every single grid slot is going to be vital going into the race.
Yeah, is going to be absolutely crucial as Ethan Ed, I believe he has just started a lap as well, and he's invalidated it immediately. So Ethan Ed under pressure now. He's currently on the front row, which is fantastic going, but he needs to get a lap on the board. He needs to build that confidence up, and that is not what he like to do as Droff does. I believe a marginal improvement, or he is just getting started actually. He's just getting started as I have a look at the ERS usage of him.
He is indeed. So we're going to stay on board with Drofters now. He's going to look to push his car a little bit further up the grid. It's a 0.037 improvement, so he's on a better lap than what he was. Let's just stay on board with him, see how committed he is through this section of track. Wonderful timing on the apex there, not pushing it too far out wide, and he is keeping it very nice and clean. So Drofters can be very important here, because not only can he take points off Cian Armed, he can give maybe Evans Joshua a few little tips if they're in the team chat together as to where he can improve his time. I mean, Grofter's looking very clean on this lap, so a little bit of a step out there as well. That's going to ruin his time. You see, he's put bad middle sector in because of that, but he's still relatively close to his own time. Let's just hope it hasn't compromised him too much as he comes up the hill. He's gone wide, trying to get as much speed as he can. DRS wide up. He's abandoned it.
Yeah,
he's abandoned it again.
Yeah, he has bailed on that lap, and you can see just that little tiny mistake there, and that cost him all the time in the world, because he did look like he was very smooth in that middle sector. Definitely would have been up on his time, I would have thought, but the middle sector split, but unfortunately it just wasn't to be.
It just wasn't to be, as you said, and we're looking now. Who's this? Cam Rules coming through to start his lap as well. Or is he just finished the lap?
He's starting the lap, and he has switched now onto the red walled tyres. Remember, he set that time on a set of the mediums.
So now we're going to see what Cam Rose is really made of around this track. As you said, the medium tyres are on first, so this is his first 364 seconds up on his own time so far, and that will bring him above Beef right now. And if he keeps improving at this rate, he'll leapfrog Spliffing, potentially Evans Joshua. Let's just see how much time he can make up, and this is important for the race as well, because we see how much time per lap is between the mediums and the softs.
Yeah, as Cam rolls now through the final few corners as we go through turn number 11, and we shall see what the middle sector split is going to say. He's 8/10 up.
He is 8/10 up, and this puts him in range of Spliffing. Let's just see this final sector, how much time he can eke out. The traction will be better on these tyres for the last corner as well, so we're going to see just how much time he has been able to make. This is going to be very tight.
Oh, he jumps up into P4. He jumps up into P8 with a 0.4.
That's a very good lap time, and if he is quick, if he gets his skates on, he will get one more go at this, but he's got to be very quick getting back around to the pits.
Yeah, and that is a beauty of this circuit. It is such a short lap that you can get all 4 qualifying runs done on your tyres.
It is indeed. I know now we're looking at a little bit of stacking there in the middle sector, so cars like Evans Joshua now, if those cars don't get a move on, Evans Joshua is going to catch those into the final sector. So Evans Joshua's got to get his head down now. He is currently in 7th on a 108.2. We'll see the first split as he exits the 3rd corner. DRS wide open once again. We're going to see what time he puts in relative to his own pace. That's over a 1/10.5 up. That is a big margin he's found in that first sector alone, and that gap leaps him just onto the tail of Cian Armed before Cian Armed has a chance to improve. So Evans Joshua, pedal to the metal right now, fully committed. Let's just see how much time he can make up as well.
Yeah, and he takes the perfect amount of curb there very close to the invalidation actually, but he does take the perfect amount, keeps it all valid. And now let's see what this middle sector is going to say for Evans Joshua. A little bit wide through 11, but he is 2.5 tenths up as we go through the final proper braking corner. But now is all foot to the floor, full throttle as you climb the hill to the line. What is this going to be for Evans Joshua? Can he get himself in front of Ethan Edge? Oh, he can't. And he's 1,000th of a second behind Cian Armed.
Is remarkably close. 1,000th of a second. I mean, you blink quicker than that. Oh, slower than that, sorry, I should say. Spliffing on another lap now, but Evans Joshua doing well to just put the pressure, just to remind the drivers in front of him, like Cian Armed, Conor Mason, those still in the title fight, to say, I'm still here. I am not going away. And at a time like that, will remind those drivers around him that he is here to play and he is here to win.
Yep, as an Armed actually goes out and he gets provisional pole with a 7.7. So he jumps up ahead of Colin R. Mason right at the end here. 1 minute to go in qualifying. Colin's still in the pits. So that is his session over and done with. Ethan Ed on an outlap. We got Elder who's just starting a lap. So we'll jump on board with Elder to see if he can find some time, because he was very close in that front pack.
We're looking at Elder now as well. We've got PW Jones we just saw before we switched to Elder, who's about to start a lap as well. So these times are going to start coming thick and fast for the people at the top of the standings. Elder keeping it nice and tidy there. I unfortunately did not see the split myself. Half a tenth up. That puts him in a very good position for the rest of the lap. Unfortunately, he's going to start catching a little bit of traffic. Let's hope he doesn't get too compromised. Lovely work there, getting out of the way. I'm not sure who that was, but a lovely work getting out of the way. So commitment now from Elder. Let's just see if the back end does stay in. He's done very well there. Rotation of the car was perfect, not taking the curb too much, just clipping the curb on the inside. Let's have a look at the split.
Oh, he's half a tenth down.
He's lost some time, but it's all about this traction now. Getting up the hill, making sure the gear changes are perfect, slamming that DRS wide open. Can he make a difference in this final little turn? You can gain a little bit of time here, but straight to the line. Let's have a look at Elder's time. He's marginally improved. He is on a 107.930. Got PW Jones coming through now as well.
Yeah, and he is just under a tenth up on his time, so he can get himself up there. Drofters improves up into P4. PW Jones improves up to P3.
That is, I mean, just look at the consistency. Look at the times. Colin R. Mason and PW Jones are split by a hair. Is that 4,000th of a second?
It is 2 tenths of a second between first and seventh.
That is remarkably close. This is going to be such a close race. If those drivers on that grid are driving like that in the race, obviously not every lap is going to be a push lap, but if it's going to be this close in the race, then we are in for some scintillating action in the last round of the championship.
Yeah, that we are. So we'll run you through the order. Is Cian Armed, who takes pole position for the final race of the championship ahead of Colin R. Mason. PW Jones, so 3 of the championship protagonists up in the top 3 in qualifying, with Elder in 4th, Drofters in 5th, Ethan Ed in 6th, Evans Joshua with some work to do down in 7th, Spliffin in 8th, Camrals in 9th, Beef rounded out the top 10 with Apollo in 11th, Larry Wheels in 12th, Hooky in 13th, and Manic Mechanic, who crashed out at the start of qualifying, so he's had no real running here in qualifying, which is going to be difficult for him. But before we go into the race, we'll have a quick word from our sponsors.
Learn new skills or learn employable skills. Do both and achieve more. Become an apprentice, a genius decision. Eisiau dysgu sgiliau newydd? Neu ddysgu sgiliau cyflogadwy? Gwna'r ddau a chyflawni mwy. Bydd yn brentis, dewis doeth.
Okay, we are back here as we join the drivers on their formation lap, and how close of a race we are in for. Very difficult to break DRS around here, and honestly, with how close the top 7 were, and obviously Spliffin was right there. He was only a couple of tenths off. Same with Camrose. With how close these top 9 were, we're in for an absolute treat for the final race of the Welsh Esports League F1 split.
We are indeed. We're looking at the tyre choices now for everybody. We look at the front three, the 3 protagonists, or 3 of the 4 protagonists for the title. Cian Arm, Conor Mason and PW Jones all choosing the soft tyre. Elder splitting the strategies here for the front runners with a medium compound tyre. Drofters, Ethan Ed also picking the soft. With Evans Joshua, we know what he can do on those medium tyres off the start. We saw it last race. He has gone for the medium tyres, alternate strategy to those title contenders. We got Spliffing then with a soft, mediums for both Camrose and Beef. Apollo picking a soft, mediums for Larry Wheels and Hooky, and Manic Mechanic once again with it all to do to try and get points, starting on the softs.
Yeah, and it is looking very cloudy. So will we see rain in the final race of the championship?
Well, it would certainly spice things up a bit, but right now in the chat, I want to see ones if you're excited for this final round of the Welsh Esports League Championship. Get your ones in the chat. We are forming the grid once more for the final time this season.
Yeah, as everyone takes their positions, 18 laps of Sao Paulo await these 14 drivers. Who is going to come out on top here as we wait for those 5 red lights to come on?
Well, it's a question of who gets the best start right now. If we're looking, as the grid has reformed, I shall pass it back to you for the start of the race.
5 red lights are out and we are racing here in Sao Paulo, and it is a very good start from Conor Mason. He's going to draw alongside unarmed in towards turn number 1. Evans Joshua trying to go around the outside of Ethan Ed in the background as well, side by side with Elder and Drofters as well, and it is getting very scrappy through the first couple of corners as it looks like Ethan Ed with a fantastic start. He's up into 4th immediately.
Fantastic start from Ethan Ed. A fantastic start from Colin R. Mason as well to be able to get in front of unarmed. Wholly important in this final race. But as you said, Ethan Ed getting the jump on Elder. A great start from him.
Yep, as Ethan Ed and Elder there side by side, and this is what we like to see when it comes to Brazil. Side by side action, a little bit of contact between the pair of them, wheel to wheel, banging side pods, and hopefully we don't see too much of that because it can get a little bit scrappy around here. But Ethan Ed down the inside of Elder, they're still side by side. Elder's going to try and hang it around the outside. Surely not going to get the traction out there. He is going to get the traction. He's going to use his ERS. He's going to try and draw alongside, but Drofters is there as well. And Drofters had the toe from Ethan Ed, but Elder, he's still going for it, and he has to tuck in behind these two now.
Drofters just appearing out of nowhere there. I was wholly expecting Elder to be getting around the outside of Ethan Ed coming off of that final corner. And then out of nowhere, hello, it's Drofters just taking up a position, making that his own. But a fantastic opening lap. Now we'll be settled down into this stage of the Grand Prix. We're looking at the predicted tyre stop strategy. A one stop would be looking to pit lap 6 to 10. So these soft runners have got to get a move on, make sure they get those gaps that they need to build over the medium runners. Evans Joshua making up a position as well on Elder, following his teammate through. So that's a big move for Evans Joshua to get done nice and early.
Yeah, and obviously this early on, everyone's still very close together on track. So DRS, as long as it stays like this, everyone will be having it, apart from Mark Mechanic and Apollo, who's in the pit lane. Presumably lost a bit of front wing early on, and that is not what he would have wanted. But his teammate unarmed on the back of Colin R. Mason, and Drofters on the back of Ethan Ed, and he is right on the back. He is literally pushing Ethan Ed down the straight.
He is right on his tail. Will he think about a move down the inside? No, he thinks better of it. So he's going to get a chance now down into turn 4. DRS, as you can see at the top of your screen.
Oh, Drofters
dropped
and
it.
he's collected his teammate as well.
That is a disaster for the Robins, an absolute disaster for the Robins indeed. Evans Joshua, that could potentially be the title gone for him. Such an unfortunate turn of events there for Evans Joshua.
Yeah, Evans Joshua just collected by Droftas. Droftas got a little bit too much onto the inside curb of turn 3 and he loses the car. Absolute pandemonium happening here in Sao Paulo, Brazil. But the top 4 they've been given a blessing now.
They have those top 4, especially the top 3 in Colin R. Mason's Unarmed and PW Jones. That's essentially one of the drivers. Without any safety car shenanigans, that's one of the main contenders out of the championship, we believe. We saw Beef dropping it at the top of the hill as well, coming in to the dippy section at the top of the track. That was unfortunate for Beef. I'm not sure who he collected. Let's hope there's no damage as Cam Rules now makes a move on Spliffing going into turn 1. Side-by-side action once again, and it looks like Cam Rules has made that move stick.
And Elder's going to try and have a look at Spliffing as well in behind. I don't think he's going to be close enough, but we're seeing a lot of gaps now begin to form towards the back end as Larry, Beef, Mechanic, Hooky, Droftas, Evans, Joshua with wing damage going onto the hard tyres. Everyone having calamities early on.
And what this will do as well later on in the race, when people like Colin R. Mason, CNR and PW Jones, Ethan Ed, do pit, these gaps in the field are going to be very interesting because the normal strategy for a pit stop to feed back into the field is now completely out the window. The gaps there do not make a certain position for you to come out on track, so you will have to do some overtaking to get your position back on the track.
Yep, that you will. And I'll see right now, I'm doing a little bit of math in my head just to see what championship is looking like. And currently, as it stands, Colin being ahead of Unarmed and winning this race currently is enough for Colin to be crowned champion.
There's an awful lot of pressure. I'm not sure that he'd be aware of that. There's a possibility that he is, but he's got to keep that out of his mind right now. He has still got 13, 14 laps of this track to negotiate. He's got to make sure that he brings that car home nice and safe. It's all about the result now. It's all about making sure that you're in the best position possible. So he's got to make sure that he is on top of his game. Obviously, the pressure from Unarmed behind, not just Unarmed, PW Jones as well. We've got 3 of the 4 championship contenders in the top 3, separated by around 1.3 seconds. This is scintillating stuff.
Yeah, and honestly, if you're Evans Joshua, what are you hoping for? You're hoping that the rain comes. You're hoping that it's a safety car to bring you back into play. As, oh my God, it looks like absolute calamities have happened in the middle sector. 3 cars slow on track. Hooky, Droftas, Mechanic. I think 3 cars getting involved in an instant with each other.
Oh, who do we just see? That's Manic Mechanic spinning out again. Maybe his tyres have gone this early in the race. We don't know. Manic Mechanic trying to get back on the track there. But this track so far has proved a real challenge for our drivers. Oh, a little bit slow on the exit there was Hooky, maybe holding Droftas up a little bit. But it's proving a very difficult track to negotiate for a lot of our drivers, and I don't blame them. This track is one of the most difficult I find personally on the calendar to race on. So it's just proving how hard these guys are pushing to try and make up positions, to try and keep their car in the best position possible. They're all pushing, and everybody is vulnerable to a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely everyone is vulnerable as Larry Wheels picks up the first 3-second time penalty of the race so far, as the top 3 all still within DRS reach. You got Elder on the back of Ethan Ed as well for P4, and it's getting a little bit spicy towards the top end, but Droftas on the back of Hooky as well for P9. Obviously, Droftas trying to get himself a couple of points here and trying to recover his race, and obviously his teammate will need to recover as well, as the race leader and PW Jones are in the pits.
So this is going to be crucial now. PW Jones and Colin R. Mason are in the pits. What is CNR going to do now? This is going to be a hammer time lap for him. He has got to push these tyres to their absolute limits without breaking them and making sure that he does not end up in a wall or in a spin. So this is going to be full pedal to the metal for him. It's going to be crucial that he maximises this as Beef picks up a 3-second time penalty as well for multiple warnings. But now we're going to see where the 2 leaders, or 2 of the leaders that have pitted, are going to feed out. Colin R. Mason has come out right in front of Ethan Ed, and PW Jones has come out behind Ethan Ed. So that's very interesting to see where they've come out in the pack altogether.
Yeah, I think PW Jones may have got held up in the pits slightly with the rest of the field pitting as well. So he got held in the pits to not release him too early for an unsafe release. But he has lost time to Colin R. Mason, and he has lost a position to Ethan Ed.
He has indeed. So now we're going to see what an arm can do coming into the pits. Colin R. Mason, we know, is currently net first in the race, depending on his lap. But Elder is in a very good position right now. We haven't talked about Elder much. He's still got those soft tyre compounds to come. He has been right on the tail of people like Ethan Ed, who was not too far behind these front runners. So Elder's played, a little bit of a slip there. He held that together very well. But he is playing himself into a very nice position now as Elder himself to maybe be a spoiler on the podium and maybe cost a title to somebody.
Yeah, and we're going to see how close this is going to be with Colin and an armed. An armed definitely would have been pushing on that in lap, and Colin would have been pushing on his out lap. And let's see how close they are, as I believe Unarmed has made the overcut work to perfection, and he is out ahead of Colin R. Mason.
What a fantastic in-lap from C and Armed. Obviously, we don't know what happened in the pits with Colin R. Mason. We spoke about PW Jones getting held up. Maybe there was a little bit of that for Colin R. Mason as well. But C and Armed has made his strategy work to perfection. He has jumped Colin R. Mason in the pit lane. So now he's got a lap fresher tyres as well. Obviously, Colin R. Mason was sitting on board. Oh, sorry, C and Armed was sitting on board. He's still got a very healthy amount of ERS as well to work with. And he is going to get the benefit coming out of this final corner as well of perhaps having DRS on Larry Wheels. But Larry Wheels is starting to hold up C and Armed here. The gap to Colin R. Mason is tumbling. So this is very, very interesting now that Colin R. Mason is able to close because of Larry Wheels, who is yet to pit.
Yeah, and not only has an arm got to get past Larry Wheels, but Colin also has to follow an arm through ASAP. And is he going to be close enough to follow through? He is going to be close enough to follow through, and he's going to look down the inside of Larry Wheels, and he's going to get ahead of him. So Unarmed has just lost a huge amount of time, and Colin is on him now.
Yeah, so that little loss in the pit lane, that overcut has been negated right now. It's completely wiped. So Colin R. Mason right on the tail of C Unarmed, getting the benefit of that DRS. We're looking, it's relatively even in the battery distribution as well. So this is going to benefit Colin R. Mason. He doesn't have to use his as much because C Unarmed has got to defend from that DRS. So this is hugely beneficial for the long-term game of Colin R. Mason that he stays on the back of C Unarmed.
Yeah, as Ethan Ed picks up a 3-second time penalty, and obviously he's around about 3 seconds ahead of PW Jones. So Ethan Ed definitely it's not looking fantastic for him right now, but he can definitely still get himself a podium out of this.
Oh, he definitely can. He's got to clear Larry Wheels as quick as he can now. As we're looking at the delta times, it's come down by half a second in that middle sector alone. So he's got to clear Larry Wheels right now if he wants to keep that 3-second gap that he had. Because he obviously, as you said, he's dropping 3 seconds with that time penalty. As we see Ethan Ed make the move coming down into the first corner, right on script.
Yep, Ethan Ed makes the move up in the P5, and now he can push on. Colin, he's dropping back a bit from Unarmed, and see, I'm looking at the ERS between them. Unarmed, he's on around about 40%. Colin 60. So I think Colin is playing this smart, and he's not using that much of his battery, making Unarmed use his, so he can get him later in the race.
He's not overcommitting, and that's hugely important because Colin R. Mason does have the lap older tyres, so he can really benefit now from just staying in the slipstream, preserving his battery, using that DRS to stay close, keeping Unarmed questioning where he's going to try and make a move, when he's going to try and make a move, because this is all a game of mental chess right now, and both drivers are going to have to realise that this battery usage is going to be critical in this final sector of the race.
Yep, as Unarmed was using a fair bit there, and Colin's going to use a little bit in response to that, but the gap still remains around 7/10 of a second.
It is, but we're coming into another DRS zone now, so we're going to see the gap again close. It comes down to 5/10. It's extending. It's constantly fluctuating right now, so it's a huge mental game. We look at Unarmed. He's trying to break the slipstream now, staying to the left of Colin R. Mason, taking a different line, so Colin doesn't get the full benefit of that DRS being wide open and the slipstream. So it's very, very smart there from C Unarmed as well.
Yep, very intelligent stuff from C Unarmed, of course. These two are fighting for the Drivers' Championship. Also, the Team Championships as well is being fought for as well. Obviously, the Robins have taken the victory in the team championship, but it definitely is looking very close between the Pirates and the Dragons. It was only a 10-point difference. And obviously, Hooky currently in P9. He's picking up a couple of points, and unfortunately, Apollo currently outside of the points, so that is not going to do an Armed and the Dragons any good currently. But currently, it's not enough. And I don't know how many times I'm going to say currently.
Well, currently it's not enough, as you said, but currently with a lot of action going out on the track. But we see then the final one of the last two to pit. Cam Rules does come into the pits with those soft tyres. He is going to come out relatively close to spliffing, so he's got fresh tyres. He's going to be able to push on those softs now. Larry Wheels as well pitting. So Elder, the only one I believe out on track now that has yet to pit, and he has a 14-second gap, I believe, to an Armed. So he can still play his way into this race for the final couple of laps if he's smart about how he uses these soft tyres.
Yeah, I think for Elder, he knows he's going to come out behind Unarmed and Colin. It's a case of how long do you want to stretch these out? Make sure you got the softs for the quickest laps possible. In fact, never mind that, he's coming in right now.
Yeah, he has ditched those mediums. He's had enough of them. It's about time he gets some brand new spanking tyres on that car. Let's see what he can do. Because Elder can really be a spoiler here as well for some people if there's a little bit of confusion up at the front. Because he can now, on those softs, potentially with the pace he's had, get the fastest lap. And a point can be wholly crucial to any one of these drivers at the front.
Yep, and we'll see Elder, he is going to come out. He's going to be just behind PW Jones, but on those soft tyres, he should have the pace to just fly straight by.
We have 5 laps left. We have 0.5 of a second separating the front two, who potentially right now do look like the two main challenges that are left for the driver's title. It is remarkably close. This is going to be a fantastic ending to the race. Colin R. Mason at Sea Unarmed still giving it full beans on every single part of this track, and I love the action we're seeing.
Yep, and Armed doing what he needs to do right now. He's holding that gap at around 7 times. He's been doing it consistently lap after lap. But at what point does Colin begin to put the pressure on? He has more ERS to play with.
It's a question of not only when does he put the pressure on, can he put the pressure on? We don't know how full out Colin R. Mason is going right now. Maybe this is all he's got. Maybe he's being a little bit smart, saving a little bit more battery than CN Arm. We don't know whether CN Arm is just driving really well right now, because Colin R. Mason does not seem to be closing up with DRS, with ERS. He's not making any sort of real inroads at this point in the race. So whether it's a longevity thing on strategy, or whether CN Arm just has this in the bag, we do not know yet, as Cam Rules puts in the fastest lap of the race. What a fantastic lap from Cam Rules.
Well, I mean, I believe we was just on board with Colin R. Mason there, but you see the flashing red light, unarmed, less than 10% on his battery.
That is very well observed right there, my friend, and it could be hugely important for Colin R. Mason now. He can see that in front of him. He knows the advantage that he has over unarmed. What kind of a situation he's put C unarmed into. So now Colin R. Mason is all about keeping composed, knowing where you're going to make the move, planning it, setting it up, making sure that you're in the right position at the right time to overtake. So this is going to be a barnstormer of a couple of last laps with these two at the front.
Yeah, and of course this is crucial as well, because on this DRS straight, unarmed does need to use his ERS to keep ahead of Colin. Colin right now, he can just allow DRS to close him back in, because even without using ERS, unarmed is going to use around about 10% of his battery just down that main straight. And obviously down in towards turn number 4, you can see the flashing red light once again, flashing on an unarmed car, and that is going to be a telltale sign that he has nothing left in his deployment.
It is indeed, but the one thing that CNARM does have in his back pocket here is the heavy braking zones at the end of the straights where you use DRS. He can recover enough energy, possibly, just to eke out those two straights to make sure that he stays in front, because there aren't a lot of opportunities to overtake here. DRS is vital, but if he can just reel back just enough ERS energy, he can still make this work.
He can indeed, but obviously over the course of a lap, you can save around about 10% just going into the final braking zone, but you're going to end up using that ERS that you saved up just by going down the main straight. So he is definitely at a massive disadvantage now, as he can't save to the same extent as Colin can right now.
He can't, and we're seeing this gap getting ever closer. This is one of the closest gaps that we have seen. Last time around, it was a 0.3. This time, a little bit of a snap there from Conor Mason. Did well to save that. Hasn't cost him too much time, but it has let Unarmed escape and breathe a little easier down this second straight. So that little bit of a snap there is just a sign of how hard Colin R. Mason is pushing to keep up with C Unarmed and to make an overtake happen for himself.
Yeah, and also another fight to keep our eyes on is battle for P4, essentially the final spot on the podium, because Ethan Ed's 3-second time penalty is going to drop him behind these two, as Elder is on the back of PW Jones as well for P number 4.
He is indeed, and we saw the full commitment from Elder on the break there. The fresher tyres, he is making these work perfectly, as Apollo does pick up a time penalty there, who is in 10th place at the moment, but he does have a significant gap over Envis Joshua. Now for Elder, this is important. How far is PW Jones? He's out of the DRS range. So now is the time that Elder can make these tyre work down these straights. Both cars into their final percentages of ERS use. So it's all about DRS right now.
As Colin closing up on an arm, but not getting close enough. But now this is it. The penultimate lap. This is where he's going to begin to use a bit more ERS. This is where he's going to begin to use his battery. He has 50% on his battery compared to Unarmed, who's on around about 20, just under 20 now.
His battery economy has been fantastic throughout this race. He's made sure that he's got enough for one final push. He's got to keep it nice and clean, stay within that second, stay within enough proximity of Unarmed to be able to actually challenge, because this track is not easy to keep within a second of the car in front, the way the lap says. Have we come up to some traffic now? This is going to be mightily interesting. Hopefully the traffic does not get involved, but will it give C Unarmed a little bit of DRS potentially? I don't think so, but it could have happened.
We'll have to see, but now ERS is going to be used by Colin R. Mason, and he has a lot of it to deploy. Let's see this gap. Let's see how much it closes in by. As Unarmed, he's flashing red. He has less than 10%. This gap is closing down massively into turn number 1. Not close enough. We have another crack in towards turn number 4.
He will indeed, but that's slightly later braking, compromising on the exit of 1 and 2. Let's see what he can do now. He's got DRS. He has ERS, the final bit of battery power. He's closing. He's going to make a move, diving into turn 4. Has he made it stick? He's down the inside, and Colin R. Mason has taken the lead from C Unarmed on the final lap.
Unbelievable. Absolutely. Daniel Ricciardo, send it down the inside. That is fantastic. No. I believe that's Mike Mechanic spinning in front. As a little bit of a tap on the rear from Unarmed on Colin. And Colin able to catch hold of that car. Now it's going to be that run up the hill. Can Unarmed get the run out of the final braking zone, out of the final proper corner, to really challenge Colin R. Mason to the line? Are we going to see a drag race to the line? That's what I'm hoping for, as we are on the final lap. This is for the Drivers' Championship. Unarmed's lost it!
He's dropped it! That gives Colin R. Mason the championship. Colin R. Mason has timed his move to perfection. And it's disaster for C Unarmed right at the very end. But can we go to Colin R. Mason crossing the finish line for the championship? Colin R. Mason wins the Sao Paulo Grand Prix.
Yeah, and PW Jones joins him on the podium, with Elder also on the podium. And Ethan Ed, that 3-second time penalty cost him massively. He was looking so good, but fortunately comes on in P4. Unarmed, that one mistake at the end, P5. Spliffing in P6. Cam Rules in P7. Larry Wheels still going around. Obviously, time penalties for him, Apollo and Hooky could mess around with the order, as Evans Joshua could potentially pick up a point. I mean, Droftas is down in 12th, and he's on the back of his teammate on fresh softs. That is probably not what Evans Joshua wanted to see, his teammate behind him after what happened earlier in this race. But Larry will cross the line in 8th, and he'll stay there ahead of Apollo. And now Hooky to the line.
I believe that Evans Joshua will jump Hooky right at the very end here, unless Evans Joshua's dropped it. Has he? Oh, they've
I
slowed down.
believe.
The Robins are pulling in together. The team champions are pulling in together. A little donut there from Drofters. This is fantastic to see from the team champions. A nice celebration from both drivers there. Not the ultimate result that Evans Joshua wanted in the Drivers' Championship, but these guys are your team champions. The Robins synchronized donuts before crossing the start-finish line. I did not expect that. That is fantastic to see.
I believe the spinning that has occurred by you has actually brought out a safety car potentially.
I hope it has. That would be a fantastic way to end the championship. But full credit to Colin R. Mason on this final race of the season. Perfect opportunity, perfect strategy, perfect timing. He put the pressure on Unarmed all the way through, kept it nice and tight, and ultimately has outthought, outpositioned, and he has beaten his championship rivals in this final race of the season. Congratulations to Colin R. Mason.
Yeah, absolutely. Massive congratulations to Colin R. Mason. Congratulations to the Robins as well that take the team championship here in the Welsh Esports League. What a season of racing we have had. It went all the way down to the final race. There were 5 drivers in it, but 4 within 10 points of each other. And it was all to play for. We saw mistakes. We saw a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact. We saw side-by-side action. We saw it all in the final race here in Brazil. And the Robins and Colin R. Mason pick up their respective championships.
A fantastic end to a fantastic season. I've had the privilege of casting 6 of the races. It has been full commitment from all the drivers. I'd like to personally thank the drivers for all the entertainment that they have brought over these last 4 weeks. A great finish to a great season, and it is fantastic to see so many teams doing so well towards the latter end of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And I echo that sentiment. Massive thank you to all the drivers for entertaining us and making sure that this has been a fantastic series of racing. But of course, for the final time, we will run you through the order. It is Colin R. Mason taking victory and the Drivers' Championship ahead of P.W. Jones in second place. Elder crosses the line in third to get a podium. Ethan Ed in fourth. C Unarmed, one mistake at the end, it cost him everything. He comes home in P5 with Spliffin. As the chat will be absolutely loving that. Spliffin coming home in P6, a good haul of points there. Cam Rules in 7th with the fastest lap. Larry Wills in 8th. Apollo in 9th. And Hooky rounding out the top 10. And then, of course, we got the pairing of the Robin drivers, the team champions of Drofters and Evans Joshua. Mac Mechanic in 13th. And Beef, unfortunately, I believe... no, he didn't DNF. Beef comes home 1 lap down in P14. Of course, that brings an end to the racing and to the evening. And as we mentioned, massive thank you to all of the drivers that have raced in this over the past 4 weeks. Any final words, Obliterator?
Just congratulations to all the drivers on a fantastically well fought, clean championship. Amazing racing from all of them. Massive thank you to you for sharing the commentary booth with me for so many of the races. Massive thank you to the Welsh Esports League for putting on such a fantastic championship. And thank you to everybody who has been in the chat all night, every single race. You guys have brought the energy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I 100% wholeheartedly echo what Obliterator has said, but that brings an end to the night's action, and we will have one final word from our sponsors before bowing out.
Learn new skills or learn employable skills. Do both and achieve more. Become an apprentice, a genius decision. Eisiau dysgu sgiliau newydd? Neu ddysgu sgiliau cyflogadwy? Gwna'r ddau a chyflawni mwy. Bydd yn brentis, dewis doeth. Learn new skills or learn employable skills.